All right. Hello, everybody. Another week, another guest, another pulse of the market. So today, I'm super happy to have David with us. I will let David introduce himself in a few minutes. As usual, quick intro. What is PosterLab? So PosterLab is a digital platform, see it as a co-working space where you can invite your R&D partners, startups, academia, suppliers, customers to systematically, let's say, collaborate to bring an idea to market in a systematic approach. So why we do this? Because innovation is becoming more and more complex on one end, but on the other end, you need to be fast and better at, let's say, in terms of speed and cost to market to defend your competitive advantage. This is why we developed PosterLab. So today we are going to talk, let's say, about this topic. We are going to talk more about the academic side, because without academic side, without science, there's no innovation. Just forget about it. Business guys are good to sell, but they are, let's say, not the best on the planet to come up with great ideas. And we are going to talk about this, let's say, academia, collaboration, industry with David, that knows very well about all of these topics. So without any few words from me, David, please introduce yourself.
All right. Oh, thanks, Sebastian. It's great to be on here. I appreciate the opportunity. So, my name's David Giltner. I am a physicist by training, and I worked in laser spectroscopy during my PhD, but I went directly into industry, and I've spent, about 25 years now developing laser technologies of a variety of kinds, mostly communications and remote sensing, things like that. But what I do now, I have my own business, TurningScience, and it developed out of a book I wrote back in 2010 where I interviewed a bunch of scientists working in industry. It just seemed like it'd be a great opportunity to write a book. I was between jobs, but that started a speaking gig, series of speaking events that turned into, I realized there was this need for scientists to understand industry better. That's where most of us end up, but we are trained to be academic researchers. And so my focus, especially the last 6 or 7 years, and since I started Turning Science, is helping scientists to understand the private sector in a variety of ways. I work with scientists who want to get jobs in industry. I work with scientists who want to be entrepreneurs and start their own company. And a more recent development is I work with scientists who are academic researchers and stay as professors or researchers, but want to collaborate with the private sector. That's kind of the latest thing that I'm interested in. So I'm working on my third book. I've written two so far, and I'm working on my third now. And that's
Cool.
it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, David. So as you see, for the people that are listening to us, used to us, or that are going to listen to this one, we are very much trying to have people, let's say, with us that knows what they are talking about. That's key in this industry. So let's go first to the first question. So, what is your definition of innovation, David?
So I just think of that as trying something that hasn't been done before. Obviously, you want it to be successful, and many times my favorite aspect of innovation is actually bringing in something from the outside. It may not have been done wherever you are working now, but bringing someone from another discipline, another market, another application, bringing that in often brings in new ideas, and so
Okay.
that's a big part of it.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much, David. So you've been talking a bit about what you've been, let's say, doing as kind of a high level. So let's go a bit deeper into your topic. Uh, can you please tell us a bit what is cooking in between the space of scientist, business, corporation? How does this, from the scientist side, what do you see coming? What are the biggest trends? I know I love one of the things that you wrote. It say it's not a formula, it's a game.
Yep.
When I've seen this, I said this guy cracked the case. That's clear. So, but I'm a business guy. I'm not a scientist. I work with scientists for a lot of my career, but I want to hear from you. What they say. What is cooking on the academic side? How can these guys go? We can collaborate even better in these days.
Yeah, so what you're talking about a bit, the kind of the latest thing that I've been working on is helping academic researchers collaborate with industry. And it's two ways. So there are some key realizations. To somebody on the outside, it might seem like academia and industry are obvious partners because, as you said already in this, that's where innovation comes from. it's not actually always so easy because the cultures can be quite different. And the title, It's a Game, Not a Formula, you mentioned, I made that the title of my second book because it's so relevant. Those of us who work in science, we tend to look for the right answer. And as you know well, that's not the way business works. Business is about a game. There are many ways to win a lot of times, and it's not about finding the right way. It's about finding a good way and making that work if you can, and they're different. So what I do is I primarily right now I'm training scientists. I hold workshops to help scientists who are building a research career understand how they can collaborate with industry. There's some key realizations. First of all, industry is a good place for a scientist. There tends to be an us versus them mentality that is unfortunate, right? You know, academic research, there's a purity to it, and we don't want it contaminated by the outside world. It's very unfortunate, but that is there. Many younger researchers, though, are very open to this. So they just need to understand, how does this work? How can an academic research lab help companies? And that there are options for collaboration that go way beyond what they might be thinking. Academic researchers tend to think in terms of grants that they apply for, but there are many options for collaboration with industry that go way beyond that. So in my workshops, I list a lot of examples. I've talked to a number of successful academic researchers who have collaborated with industry, and they've built great groups and great ideas. And so I use these as examples. And so I teach them, how do you actually do that? Those are the kind of the key things that are required to help encourage that collaboration.
Okay. Um, how do you um, when you have this, let's say your peers, you are talking to
Mhm.
your peers, and you have also technical and scientific background, and um, how is the journey going? Because I guess you have someone that said, okay, David, I know I need to go into industry, or I would like to go into the industry, or I would like to be an entrepreneur. I think it's a fast stretch for them. How do they go through this journey and then to feel good about it? Because I guess it's a stretch for this guy.
It can be, and it really depends on the culture in the university where they are. You know, I travel the world. I've given workshops at lots of places. Some universities are getting really good at encouraging scientists to go work in industry, because that's where most of us, the vast majority, end up. But some are not that way. In fact, I graduated from an institution that really didn't seem to, the department didn't recognize it. So a lot of it is helping us. I like to do it with stories. I think that's the short answer to your question. If I can tell stories from all the scientists that I've interviewed for my books, about how they have built successful, exciting, and rewarding careers, that is a big part of it. That helps them get past that mental, you know. And I think the thing is, with LinkedIn, with social media, with the internet, I think they're aware, far more aware than I might have been when I started my career, that industry is an option, even if they're not currently in a culture that embraces it. And so they know something else is out there. With the stories of the scientists I've spoken to, I can help them see beyond that. And then we talk about, well, what do you need to know to understand how the game is played? That's the
Mhm,
next big thing. Once they realize, okay, I can be comfortable making this transition. I see that this isn't plan B. I'm not
mhm,
taking a second career option. In fact, most scientists do this and they love it. Here's why they love it. Then we start to talk about, well, how is industry different than an academic research lab? Because there are some key differences. You know, the biggest one being, academic research is, the purpose is creating knowledge. But of course, business and industry is for
mhm,
creating profit. Ultimately, it's creating solutions, and those generate a
mhm,
profit. And
mhm,
that's where it all starts, and we go from there. And then there's a lot more things we can talk about. You know,
mhm.
okay, what kinds of jobs can scientists do out in the real world? Could I be an entrepreneur if I want to? Yeah, absolutely. Scientists make great entrepreneurs. How
Ouais.
do I sell myself? How do I talk about what I've done? Because you can't describe your work the same way you might at an academic research conference where everybody understands your niche project. You have to think a bit about it differently. I have a module in my workshops I call telling better stories with the same facts. We're not making things up, we're not exaggerating. Use the same facts, but we can tell them in a way that is engaging to your audience. If you know who they are and what they're interested in, you can do it that way. So there's a
Yeah,
whole spectrum of
yeah,
things that we talk about.
yeah. But I mean, sometimes I'm jealous. So, like I mentioned, I worked a lot with engineers, chemical engineers, for the last 15 years. And sometimes I was jealous because once you have one of these guys that start to understand the business world, Then they have the technical aspect of things and the business aspect of things. We will never have the technical aspect of things.
Right.
I tried at some point. I'm just lost in translation.
Right.
So for me, this is also this kind of profile are super mega important in a corporation to have this dual kind of view on things.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important. Make me think about something else. I was in TU Delft 3 weeks ago in Netherlands, Technical University of Delft,
Mm-hmm.
quite well known. And there was this Italian lady that had a PhD in biology, it's a very, very specific thing. And she decided to make a spin-off from the university.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking, she was a CEO, and she was talking, explaining all our journey to let's say, to come from a very, very deep technical knowledge to being a CEO. And I think there is also great journey if for scientists to look at the business side, entrepreneurship side could be a lot of fun, a lot of learning, a lot of, I mean, it could be great journey, I think.
I completely agree. Many scientists I've met who have been successful in business, and especially the entrepreneurs, they see business as one more big problem to learn about. I mean, they embrace it similarly to how in a similar fashion to how they embrace their science discipline. Like, wow, there's a whole lot of interesting stuff to know here. And business just becomes another one. I like
Yeah.
to encourage scientists to think about a research and a development mindset. We talk a lot about R&D, right? And it's just kind of
Mm-hmm.
this throwaway term, oh, R&D, right? But I think they really encompass the two things that are important in a technical business, the research side, the gaining knowledge, because sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
need to focus on that. And that, of course, is what
Mm-hmm.
science is all about. But development, that's really what you do in a business, and it's a different approach. You're developing a solution, and money is important, profitability is important. If a scientist can think in terms of not I have to work in one place or the other, but I can actually function in either a research mindset when that's needed or a development mindset when that's needed, and know when to go back and forth, you become far more influential, you're far more versatile, and that is the basis for a great career. Whether you end up as a CEO, is the example of the
Yeah.
woman you were talking about, or not,
Yeah.
even if you stay in a lab role for the first decade or two of your career, it's still valuable to understand that difference. You're still in a business, and you still want to have to sometimes wear that business person's hat if you want to be effective.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I know we didn't prepare this question, but I'm just thinking about it. Um, Sometimes I see engineer's dilemma. Let me explain what I mean. I
Sure.
guess I guess you know what I'm talking about. Is that I have been working very closely with engineers, and as they know everything about the product inside out,
Hmm.
they are going to tell you, "Oh, we cannot do this because we cannot do that because other product cannot be applied for that because."
Yeah.
So they know too much, so they have to have some kind of they start to be scared. That's one dilemma, and then the other dilemma I see is that we can do it ourselves. We know we can do it ourselves. I know we didn't prepare this question, but how do you address this point?
Yeah, the boy, that's a great one. So it reminds me of one of the biggest differences I've seen. There are a few, but biggest differences between a successful business person and the scientist, let's say when they get their PhD, the way we are trained, right? We're trained to think of right answers, to do analysis, and to really analyze the data and make decisions based on that. And it's very valuable. But that's what leads to what you described. Scientists and engineers both tend to look at a new idea and analyze up front whether or not it can be done. Business people, successful business people, tend to look at something and say, there's a great opportunity. I'll bet we can figure it out. And this is part of the game. It really is a game type of phenomenon. I tell a story from my last job, the one I quit to start my own company in 2017. We put laser-based combustion sensors on big industrial furnaces. That part isn't relevant. My role was actually business development and product management. And so I traveled a lot with the CEO. He was a big hockey fan, and he played hockey a lot. And we'd go out, we'd visit customers, and we'd end up talking in the evenings in the hotel bar, over a beer or two, and telling stories about our careers. He liked to talk about the old guy hockey that he played. And he made a comment. He said, Dave, when I step out on the ice, I never consider that we might not win the game. And I thought, wait a minute, what, my scientist brain clicked on, how can you possibly not consider it? Look at the data. Have you won every game? Well, no. Well, then how could you not consider you would lose? And it took me some time to realize, okay, no, this is this same thing. he's not analyzing up front, what is the probability that I might win or not? He's just saying, look, this game is winnable. Our job is to figure out how to do it tonight with the people we have, the condition we're in, whatever's on our mind. It is winnable. If I think too much about whether I can or can't up front, I'll just hobble myself. I'll make it harder. And they approach it as though they can win. And I thought this is the way so many successful businessmen, business people think about this. And the way scientists need to think about it, not overanalyze it, find a good solution and work to make that work, because you're never going to know everything. We don't have the data in business. In science, we can collect enough data to be able to make a prediction. That's the goal of science. Eventually we get to that point. In business, it's a game. There are too many things you can't predict. You need to take a good opportunity and just focus on how do we win? How do we make it work?
Yeah, it's true. And I used to say when I was writing the values of PosterLab at the beginning of PosterLab, one of them was appetite for risk.
Yeah.
And so I know it's a stretch for some people, but it can be learned. Not in some kind of controlled environment, let's say. But yeah, we are going towards the end of the podcast. But I want to know how you see this collaboration going on, this mindset of the scientists thinking about business, thinking about. I've read something recently about venture scientists or something like this. How do you see this? Because I mean, from my perspective, science is a very strong statement, but science is going to save the world. That's my deep belief. So how do you see that's the need for science to stand out, the need for science to be even more involved in business decision? So therefore, the need to have scientists that have this business mindset. How do you see this evolving in the next 5 years?
Yeah, so I think the connection, the collaboration between academia and industry is an important part of that, bringing them closer together. Science is great. I mean, it's the most powerful tool we have at finding consensus on things, right? That's what it does, and that's something we desperately need. And so helping both sides understand each other. Currently, I work with scientists helping them understand business. I'm looking in the next few years to get more into helping the business people understand their scientists better as well. Because if the two can better understand each other, they can work together much better. And I think it's important for, as you say, for the world. I think it's needed. There are problems to be solved. And so the scientists need to realize we can continue to do science, but companies need us to help them solve their problems. They need solutions, not science, and we can help with that. And the business people need to understand where the scientists are coming from, so they realize, hey, they're not all just people that want to work in a lab for 10 years collecting data and writing papers, because that doesn't help industry, not really. I mean, and so helping them understand each other is key. I often think of myself as a translator between PhD and MBA, because I've had experience on both sides, and I realized this is what is needed, right? To help both understand each other. I think that has real important ramifications for all of us.
Yeah. And when you think about it, I mean, in a lot of manufacturing organization, you have business guy working very closely with the scientists, but we have never been told how to work with each other.
Right.
Even though we have complete different academic background, culture, mindset, everything, but we have never been told. We are just learning on the go. So I think it's key what you say is maybe, let's say, from a very practical standpoint, to have organizations starting to have, hey, guys, let's have a discussion on what is your background, to try to build this synergy.
Yeah, I think that's right. And helping that communication is a really good idea. I know obviously some people, you put them in that environment and they figure it out. But it's not, the differences aren't always obvious, because most scientists have never spent time in a business environment, and most business people, seasoned, experienced, successful business people, haven't spent much time in an academic research environment. And so the two, it's completely different cultures in some ways. And some teams are able to work through that very well, and they serve as great examples for the ones that struggle a bit more to understand each other. But there's a lot to be gained from that.
Well, one thing I've heard about, I think it was also this CEO, this lady that we've heard last time. She was going through an incubation at TU Delft, And it was a lot of PhDs and scientists. And one of the first class they had is, okay, tell me about your idea without using any technical word.
That's a great one. That's funny. So in my telling, I told you about my telling stories module. I say, tell stories your grandparents would understand. I don't know your grandparents. They may be very smart. They may know nothing about your technical background, but they probably don't have much overlap with what you do, but they understand how the world works. So if you can help them understand your work, why it's worth spending tax dollars on, why it's, what you're doing, that's great practice for the world outside of a lab, because most people don't understand those technical terms, and you can't use that anymore. I think it's great practice.
Yeah, cool, very good. We are right on time, David. So I would like to thank again the people that have been listening to us now, the people that are going to listen to us afterwards. I highly encourage you to go on David's LinkedIn profile, David's website, look for his book. I think it's one of the rare people I know that have a very good understanding on the academic side, on the business side, and can do this translation like you mentioned, David. And this is key. So go for it. Ask any question you would like to David. Is a great go-to person to talk about this topic. Thank you, David, for your time. Very appreciate. Loved our discussion. Wish you all the best. And anyway, we keep each other informed.
Excellent. Thank you, Sebastian. I appreciate you having me on. This has been a good conversation.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.